Welcome and thank you so much for clicking on my video. Today we are going to be discussing some technical analysis for this week for the SPY Qs, Apple, Tesla, Amazon, Nvidia, AMD, and Meta, looking into AMC and GME as GME is doing something kind of big. And there's some things that we need to pay attention to. In this video, we are going to discuss how we still believe we are going to an all-time high. If you didn't, or if you weren't subscribed to this channel, we actually down in these areas, we called a short squeeze, and that actually ended up happening. Then once we got excited past this level, we said most likely we will move down or sideways, and that has happened. And now we're seeing this slight bit of green come in, closing above all our moving averages again. Are we about to see an upside move? Okay, so that's what we're going to discuss. But first thing I wanted to point out was the fact that the dollar has bottomed. So this really tells us something here. This tells us really that if something bad were to happen, this right here would be kind of the trigger for that. And the bottom in the dollar usually does happen before the SPY actually does top. Now notice that I am saying the SPY, not the Qs. The Qs, normally how tops happen is the SPY actually goes and makes another high up in these levels and you see some kind of divergence, but the Qs aren't able to do that. So we're going to be paying attention to that a lot. As this dollar has been scaling up, it tells you something really bad could be coming around the corner and things could get ugly quickly. Now, taking into consideration how we pay attention to rigged moves using the dollar and the PCC, I just wanted to flash over to that, showing the dollar higher. Something that we need when the dollar is higher is for the market to be higher. So is the market higher? Yes, it is. The market is going up while the dollar is going up. That's one rigged behavior there. That's telling you that some insiders are selling. Smart money might actually be selling in this upward push as we go to an all-time high trap. So what's the last thing we need in order to fully set that trap? Well, we need a very, very low PCC, a time where a lot of people are taking options saying that there is no way the market can come down. So at this moment, do we have that? As we go look at the put call ratio, we're actually seeing that as at 1.123. That tells me as a trader paying attention to the signals that we actually could short squeeze and see this difference between the dollar and the SPY and the Qs for a little bit of time. And I think that is going to be very apparent this week. I think we will see some kind of all-time high trap. And even though we're talking about upside now, I believe briefly after that, we might be talking about downside. Now, we do pay attention to the signals. We say trade like water on this channel. That's very important to understand. We can have a theory right now. We can have a scenario right now to pay attention to. But if that doesn't play out, we're ultimately paying attention to the signals. We are willing to flip-flop at any time. So make sure you're frequently tuning into these videos, because we might say something today, see some price action tomorrow, and everything might change, right? We could just see a bad day in the market, see this drop off, and everything changes once this thing crosses down. So that's something to pay attention to. Let's get into some technical analysis today as we first start off with the SPY. All right, so getting into the SPY, the first thing we need to do is get these monthly expected moves on there. The monthly expected moves, 579.20 to the upside, and we do have 548.16 to the downside. Now, the reason that these are important is because if you remember, August monthly expected move was down towards these levels. And what did we notice? Well, that came out very, very early in the month, August 5th. And what does that mean? I have a 68% chance to land above that zone, okay, above that yellow line. Now, those yellow lines have dramatically shifted as we called that short squeeze. Very good. Hopefully, people are able to benefit from that. Thank you so much for subscribing, and give yourself a big thumbs up and a pat on the back, and congratulations on your trades for that, because we used Nvidia down at these levels to just say, hey, and we used the monthly expected moves to say there was going to be some kind of short squeeze. And now we're noticing that we're getting some upward price action. We can get those new levels onto our chart and say if a big move happens early on in the month, we can pay attention to reversal signals in these areas, reversal signals in these areas above the weekly expected move, reversal signals in these areas of the daily expected moves as well. We can pay attention to all of those things, and they can really help you out in confidence with your trade. They could be a reason for taking the trade. We talk about that in the courses a lot. The courses are going to remain 90% off until late Tuesday. Okay, so Tuesday, because I forgot that it was Labor Day, of course, so we didn't have a live video, but I like people to have the opportunity to come out and ask questions, and that's why I wanted to make sure to leave that sale up just for another day. So make sure to get that, as both Both courses are 90% off. If you want to learn how to trade around these type of tools, learn about reversal signals, learn about the MACD in depth, learn about the RSI in depth. They're great courses. I've heard all good things. You have literally hours left to get that. So I highly encourage that, as it's only $100 to get the technical indicators course, and the swing trading course is only $50. So for $150, you can really start to become a great trader with some practice. So now we want to go into a 2-hour chart. Now we're going to give you those weekly expected moves at this point. We do have 571.93 to the upside, and we do have 555.43 to the downside. This is our 68% zone for the week. So if that trap comes in and we see up here a low PCC and the dollar remains going higher, that is what we are really going to pay attention to, at least on this channel. If something different happens, hey, we trade like water. So we will always be adapting to what the market is doing and following the signals. Trading like water is a great way to be a trader. I always say it's terrible to be a flip-flopper in politics, but it is great to be a flip-flopper as a trader, okay? So this is your 68% zone. That would be right in between this level here of 571.93 to the upside, and we do have 555.43 to the downside. And then for the day, you do have 566.86 to the upside and 560.50 to the downside. So kind of a small range and a smaller weekly range as of now. So if we do see that move up, this could hold as a point of resistance. It kind of tells me when this is small that you're either going to see something crazy or see like an upward move and most likely just, you know, consolidate, or maybe you reach down into this a little bit to gain those buyers to freak some people out. But as we do still have a high PCC level, I think the most likely thing is maybe moving sideways or up early on in the week. So we'll pay attention to that. Now, why do we want to pay attention to this area right up here? Well, it's because this 2 hours is about to cross, and if that creates some kind of divergence in any way, that can be a big reversal signal, because what is behind this 2-hour divergence, this very simple 2-hour divergence, right? Could be simple, but it has a lot more to say. You do have a 2-hour divergence, which does like to roll over those daily charts. I've back tested it a lot, and most of the time you do see a 2-hour divergence before a daily chart rolls over. If you just look back just a little bit, right here on the RSI and the MACD at the same time, what did you have? You had a divergence right here at the top where we called the top and said there would be a downturn, right? So right here is where we saw those signals to pay attention. Then that's all you have to do. You just pay attention to certain times where there could be reversals, and every once in a while, maybe if there is a crash, you can benefit from it, right? You'll just make a little bit more money. That's the good part. You don't have to sit there and be calling a crash every single time. You can treat it like a crash, right? A lot of the time when we talk about it, we treat it like something really bad could happen, because it can. Stocks can go up, stocks can go down at any time. Something bad can happen at any time. So we want to pay attention to any kind of reversal signal as the market gets excited before some jobs data. Jerome Powell and all them, they've come out and they've said, we want the jobs data to come in pretty even. We don't want that cooling anymore. And guess what we get this week? We get a bunch of jobs data. September 6th is going to be the most important day to pay attention to this week, in my opinion, especially if we see these elevated levels before then, and we see a high PCC and we see a high dollar up in the, or a low PCC and a high dollar up in this area while the market is higher. That's going to be very important going forward, seeing if it creates some kind of 2-hour divergence. So bullish setup here. If you cross up on this MACD, you're breaking through that consolidation. It looks like, possibly with a double bottom up towards that weekly range. Everyone gets euphoric with an all-time high, and then we start to turn down. I think that would be very interesting if this was the simple thing to pay attention to. And if you need to learn about the MACD, well, a lot of people who have taken the course, you now know if this would curl over, it would be a lot worse because it's a lot closer to that center line. Okay, so we'll pay attention to that going forward. 2 hour to the upside, that could be a good sign. A 30-minute turning down would be the bad sign. Now, the 30-minute turning down would be a bad sign because it is close to that center line. Now, if that needs to react down, get some buyers, fake some people out, cause some people to buy more puts, and then just turn up over time, that would be an interesting way for this to play out. So we'll pay attention to that. Qs, we already discussed how we came outside of that monthly expected move, 68% chance to bounce, and we saw those reversal signals in Nvidia, making me pretty confident to say, hey, there's most likely going to be a short squeeze, and that's exactly what we got. So fantastic look. Thank you so much if you are subscribed, and give yourself a big pat on the back if you're able to benefit from that, and thank you for subscribing for real. Now, as we look at this, this was very close to being bad, right? This thing was pointing down on this MACD, saying we are going to cross over, but it was relatively controlled. So if the Qs are going to head higher, what is going to overall happen? Okay, well, the 2 hour is most likely going to curl up here. So let's get those monthlies up on your chart right now. 497.55 to the upside and 454.99 to the downside. That is your 68% zone for the month of September. They were very, very useful in August, so I would encourage you to put these on your chart. And then as we go into a 2 hour, we can start to talk about the weekly ranges. As we get into these weekly ranges, you're noticing it is a smaller range. That is key to understand, and we're going to zoom out in a minute to talk about it. But 482.37 to the upside, and we do have 470.17 to the downside. You'll notice that this is a small range, and the daily ranges are small for tomorrow too, coming in at 480.53 to the upside and 472.01 to the downside. So what does this tell us? This tells us that, hey, if this does pop up right away early on in the week, that could actually lead to some kind of downturn, okay? Because you'd be outside, especially on a Monday, you'd be outside of both zones at the same time, which is a pretty good sign, especially if you're seeing some kind of 2 hour divergence or 30-minute divergence, that you can start to see some weakness. Now, if this wanted to head higher, cup, handle, and then we head higher, this is something we are going to pay close attention to as we go forward, right? We trade like water, meaning we pay attention to multiple scenarios to see what is going on. But for now, the 2 hour has curled up. It's really close to that center line. So the most likely thing here is you're going to test this high, maybe even go make a new one. And if you go make a new one, what would be setting up here? Well, if this holds with that 2 hour divergence as a lower high, you would be seeing that behavior of a major top, meaning the SPY goes and makes the divergence, the Qs cannot. The SPY will go and make that divergence like we just talked about on the previous chart, but then the Qs might just set up some kind of lower high, and that will be a big sign that we could be seeing a major top this week. So pay close attention to September 6th. Make sure to tune into these videos pretty often because we trade like water, meaning if we see some different things shape up over the next couple of days, we could completely change our standpoint. Now, we haven't had to do that a lot over the past, I would say, few months, but for the most part, we just want to say, if this 2 hour curls up, which it already has, the most likely thing to happen is test the high, go make a new one. Watch out for a divergence up in these levels, okay? Apple is going to be a very different one, okay? Apple is one that actually has a 2 hour divergence to the upside, and Apple can be a great indicator of how the market is feeling, and I want you to notice how this is a lower high, okay? So if we're going to see some kind of downturn in the market, watch Apple. Apple actually in the past, on the daily scale here, in the past has had some major downturns right in this area. This was actually turning down while the market continued to head higher. And then eventually Apple ended up being right. So that is something to pay attention to. Around this level, we started to say, hey, if that daily crosses over, what happens? Bad things if that crossed over the MACD, because that would be going into a negative trend. So what would happen here if this crossed over and went down into a negative trend? That bad things, right? Bad price action. So we'll pay attention to that. As of right now, you do have that weakness telling you, hey, the daily scale does have a good probability of turning over on that daily chart. So right now it says if this 2 hour continues down, that daily can cross. That would be a bad sign. What is the bullish sign here? The 30-minute. The 30-minute chart's going to be your bullish sign. Look at that, still pretty close to the center line. So it just tells you in the shorter term, the short term, because this is a 30-minute chart, we can see an upside push. Now, the reason you pay attention to these upside pushes is because 30-minute divergences like to roll over 2 hour charts. And what do you have up here? You have 2 hour divergences and you have a 30-minute divergence at the top. It is a great way to enter a trade. It's something we talk about in the course. It's something we talk about a lot with the golden setup that Apple has given us in the past. So the golden setup is a fantastic trade. That is one that I always take a bigger position on. So at this moment though, you do have confirmation of a 2 hour divergence telling you, hey, that daily scale can start to see weakness, and that is the most probable thing. Just watch out because there could be one more rig move higher to trap some people on a 30-minute chart. You see a 30-minute divergence, and then this thing starts to roll back down. So pay attention to that with Apple. Moving forward, we just want to pay attention if things are curling down on daily charts. As we click through, you're going to see a lot of this type of behavior from here on out, which is 2 hours crossing up, and the most likely thing is we're going to go up towards some kind of sell zone. Now, there is still structure we can create to go higher for something like Tesla, which has curled up on its MACD and possibly even going into positive territory early on in the week. So if that is going to go up, well, then I want to know how high could that actually go. And so on Patreon, we actually give out weekly and monthly expected moves for every stock that we do cover on this channel. If it's something you're interested in, it only costs you about a cup of coffee every single month. I can tell you right now that the information is probably worth hundreds of dollars per month because not a lot of people use this tool. And it is the most useful tool I've ever had in my whole trading career. I've been trading for about, what year is it now? I've been trading since 2015, 2016, something like that. And so maybe even before that actually, but ever since then, I've really been trying to get those edge, and I've just increased my edge every single time I learn something new, and this has really helped me. And so I encourage you, if you're still struggling, get those weekly expected moves. They will really help you out in finding some good reversals and some good risk to reward type behavior and some profit taking. If this has a move up to this area and you notice, hey, that weekly range is up at 228 or something like that, it's not, but I'm just using it as an example. Well, that would be a 68% level. That's as high up as the options market expects Tesla to go. And if that would turn down, what would be the bad thing happening here? Well, you would have a form of divergence here on the MACD and the RSI at the same time. So that would lead to maybe the daily is going to cross over and Tesla is going to see some downward pressure. So that's what I would pay attention to. If you would like to head higher from here, that's right, we're going to talk about a bullish scenario because we trade like water. If you want to see this head higher, it comes to this level, you reject from that level and you curl back up, because that would create some pretty good structure to head higher with some kind of wonky head and shoulders is what I would say. So pay attention to that with Tesla. 2 hour crosses up, good things can happen, and that looks like the direction for now. If a 30-minute does cross down though, you are still within range of going negative. So I would just be cautious with Tesla. If that 30-minute crosses down, it just might mean, hey, we need to go collect some more buyers in this zone, or it could mean something worse, and that's why we react when we see bad things. Amazon is one that started off a little bit early, right? This thing started to pop higher after that cross on the MACD. What happens, most likely thing to happen after we cross on the MACD is positivity. Positive momentum really shifting, starting to go positive on this last bar. So what could be happening with Amazon going forward? Well, if it wants to head higher, let's talk about a bullish thing first. Then getting up to this level, creating that handle would be nice for Amazon to head higher, because you really need to break through this area. Remember, when we were talking about Amazon down in these areas, we said, well, it's most likely going to react to a breakdown area. Where did it react to? The breakdown area. Okay, so we really broke down through these lows, and this is where we thought we would react. Now you're building up before that. So if we do get up to this area, I just need you to notice, if we don't make that handle, this can be some liquidity grab to actually send stocks lower, to send Amazon lower, because it would create some kind of 2 hour divergence at the same time on the MACD and the RSI. So you notice we're paying attention to a lot of the similar things in these similar things in the market, and that's a fantastic thing because it makes our job a little bit easier. Now, sometimes we do make triple divergences. These are drawn out downturns leading to drawn out upside, which can mean we need to get tight, right? The swings might be big, smaller, and then we actually start to turn down that daily chart, okay? So be open to multiple scenarios. It is something I say all the time. If you ever have any confusion with a stock you're looking at, please come to my live show. I highly encourage you to come to my live show, because I am down to look at any stock and tell you what I think about it. Take that with a grain of salt, because maybe I won't agree with you necessarily, but I will try to make sense of it in real time of what I am seeing. And a lot of the time when someone comes in and says, I'm bullish on this, and I go, hey, you're chasing this, they come to that conclusion themselves really quickly. They just go, oh, the MACD is up in these areas, and most likely we will move sideways or turn down, and I need to wait for that to get to the center line before it crosses up. We do that all the time, so I highly encourage you to come to the live video and ask some questions, even if it's about the course, what you can learn in the course. It's not just me, telling you what you can learn in the course. There are tons of people in the live show who can tell you how that course has really helped them. Some people's favorite part is actually just something simple like the MACD, because we talk about it so much differently than any course that I've taken. I've taken tons of them before, so I highly encourage you to look into those. But at the same time, we can pay attention to Amazon. If it gets excited and creates some kind of divergence, I would really be watching out below, or watching for those reversal signals to actually confirm, and paying attention to jobs data this week. Nvidia not seeing the most positivity after earnings, but what did we say overall when we got to this level? We said a dip down into our zone would be nice. We tried to do it once, tried to break through, couldn't do it, had to dig a little bit deeper. So now we're in that zone, retesting the breakout area. Remember, this is where I completely pretty much got out of my Nvidia calls from the lows here, which we just noticed the divergences, right? The divergences there. This is what really told us, hey, there could be a short squeeze brewing with the dollar, with the PCC and all that good stuff, and those monthly ranges. So everything really helped us out here, and this was a very easy but great trade. And if you held it long enough, you made some good money like we did. So right here is where I completely got out of Nvidia, because I said this is where I'd really like it to consolidate, to remain healthy and head higher, maybe even dip lower, touch that zone to actually head higher. Now, when this got excited, I go, okay, now I'm a little bit worried. People could be getting trapped. We could move sideways or down until we're actually able to curl up on a 2-hour MACD. And what happened over time? We got down, down, down to that center line, and we're curling up. Okay, let's see if we can see that positivity. If this curls up on this MACD, it hasn't yet. That's something a little different. This hasn't curled up yet. So you still have to see that actually curl up. If that does happen, well, what if we skip the whole structure thing again, right? We skipped it here. So what if we skip it again and just short squeeze this thing to a weekly or a monthly expected move? And that's why it's key to have those on your charts. That's why we put it out on Patreon. It is very freaking helpful. Very freaking helpful. Like, I hate that I have to convince people because it is so damn helpful. It's just like obviously so helpful to know what the options data is pricing in every single week. It is so useful. 2-hour cross up, good things can happen. Is it crossed up right now? No. So should we expect positivity right away? No, not until this really curls up and says momentum is shifting, right? We'll get above some moving averages. That would be fantastic. So the only thing we don't want to happen here is that daily to cross. And I wanted to show Nvidia because this thing is so close to crossing. It is not even funny. So this is why if we're going to head to all-time highs, which I still believe we are, I don't think Nvidia will cross down this MACD on Tuesday. I think we will see some kind of upward move on Tuesday so that it doesn't confirm that momentum down, and then we can go trap people up in these levels maybe by Friday. I think that would be great. Well, obviously not great. I don't want people to get trapped, but for the most part, if we're paying attention to the signals, we can benefit from it on this channel. If we're going to head to those higher levels, what if we just grab liquidity in here and then end up going lower? So we'll pay attention to that. Obviously, we'll pay attention if we get excited and then see some kind of 2-hour divergence. That's what's important for Nvidia in front of me right now. Now, AMD, very similar to Nvidia, we saw reversal signals down at the bottom. And I said, the only reason I'm not trading AMD and I'm going to trade Nvidia instead is because this thing has been wonky a lot lately, right? Very wonky a lot. Now, we've paid attention to the signals. I've tried to play some of these signals, but for the most part, not being the most beneficial. Now, if I continue to pay attention to a stock, and then I'll ultimately be in that move. We discussed that a lot in the course. If you continue to pay attention to divergences and things like that, you're managing your trade like we discuss how to do. We teach you how to manage your trade. Not a lot of traders know how to do that. When to get out of a losing play, when to get out, when to take profit, those type of things. We talk about that in the course because there are times where you're going to have to manage that trade. There are rigged moves in the market. They could not have enough liquidity to send it higher even though they want to, and they turn that thing down for a moment. That curls back up. Boom, big move. Okay, so what are we paying attention to with AMD right now? Curling up on the MACD, kind of like Nvidia. So at this moment, you haven't curled up, but it's just barely not curled up. So obviously, the 30-minute curls down, negativity, right? More negativity. This is not curled up, so negativity. We want to act like, oh, I'm surprised that's curling up, but I'm ready to react. That's the overall thing with AMD here. If we do curl up on this MACD, well, where would we run into problems? This zone in here. We talked about these two lines, okay? These two lines are some resistance levels. If you get above one, you can use it as support, but just note that this level here could be some sellers lurking as they were right here before that downturn. So pay attention to this. Why would you pay attention to the 2-hour curling up? Well, if that 2-hour curls up, what if we make some kind of divergence at this level? That would be something to pay attention to this week, especially if it's leading into something like Friday. So it doesn't mean Friday is going to be a super mega crash or anything like that. I think it will be in the form of a bear market. I think this will still be complicated on the way down. I just think that after Friday, we might actually start to see some downward trends. That's what I think will really take place. If I'm wrong about that, that's perfectly fine. I will explain it in the videos going throughout if things are looking less probable, if we get good data on Friday. But for the most part, if we follow the signals, we will be just fine. If we trade like water, we will be just fine. Meta, and we do go into shorter time frames than a 2 hour in the live show and in these videos, by the way. It's just these are the most important things I'm seeing at this moment. The 2 hour for Meta has curled up again. Remember, right? We just discussed how sometimes you got to manage that trade for a moment and see that thing curl up. And maybe we could show you that real quick. You just see how the 30-minute curled up into positive territory with a good divergence, telling you, hey, we could actually see the 2 hour turn up. What happened briefly after that? The 2 hour turned up. It turned back down. So from this point on, it said, hey, no upside just yet, because something really bad could be happening here. I'm going into negative territory. That turns right back around. You go, okay, now back in the play. 2 hour remains positive and everything looks good. So right now, what are we paying attention to for Meta? Well, it had a divergence up here at the top. That really hinted to us that it was going to experience weakness. We talked about that. Now, what if it's going to go up for that third time? And then if we see something bad come in. So we'll pay attention to the signal here, because this could be leading into Friday or something like that. And that's when we get that important data. So 2 hours curling up are the main thing to pay attention to. But how could this head higher, right? We always want to talk about multiple scenarios and be open to any direction for a stock. If this was going to head higher, maybe we react to this level, we actually pull back down and we see some kind of structure, some kind of cup and handle, something that tells us, hey, we do have some steam to go to the upside, and we will see that in our signals. That's the best part. We will see the signals proving which way this stock actually wants to go, and we'll see that across the board. So any stock that you look at, if you pay attention to the signals, you're going to be much better off. Something we like to say a lot of the time is you manage the trade, you trade, but at the same time, you just let your signals do the trading for you. You just react and push the buttons. I thought just a random one we don't necessarily discuss, and I don't even have weekly or monthly moves for it, but I just want to talk about Netflix as it has built up a little bit of structure to maybe head higher here. So we're paying attention to that because this 2 hour is crossing up. It's maybe about to break through, and we could head to the upward side of a channel. Now I need to extend this. I don't want to do that as of right now. I just don't have a ton of time. But if that 2 hour does pop up, it could go up to that top of the channel. Watch out for any kind of divergences for Netflix. It just looks like an interesting one to me, because this one looks like it does have some room still to the upside. So I thought Netflix was interesting and it would be fun to talk about before we get into AMC, which has curled down on that 2 hour. So that is not a good thing. That is not a good thing. This is not what you want to see before a big move. If you've been a part of this channel for a long time, you know I'm still holding AMC. I'm still holding GME. I'm very, very optimistic. I am there for the fight. I believe in it a lot. I think that the market is rigged to a T, and we pay attention to those type of moves. So of course I'm going to get in on something that is trying to make that come to light. And so what we need to see from AMC is a 2 hour crossing up. A 2 hour cross up can be a great thing. We need to give you those updated levels. We're going to do that during the live show tomorrow morning. So if you need the updated level for AMC this week to see something crazy, we'll put that up on the live video tomorrow. Please, someone who comes to the live video, please remind me to do that. But 2 hour needs to cross up into positive territory to see positive things. The ultimate signal you need still from AMC is a daily cross up. And it's funny we talk about a daily cross up here, because as we click over to GME, that's exactly what happened. And GME didn't only, it crossed up very close to the center line still. So it was able to get a little closer to that center line, and then it curls back up. That's fantastic. And you notice, where did we stop? Where did we stop last week? We stopped right before we did something crazy, right? 23.57 was the level last week to see something crazy. And we went up to, what is this? The high 23.48, about 10 cents off from seeing something crazy. This is what would not be expected. And I have those new levels for you. We are going to update those for tomorrow. GameStop, there's nothing I can say about this besides positivity. Daily is very positive, and that is a very good sign. If we need to reload, if the short sellers step in and clamp down on this, if this is going to, go sideways until earnings, what are you most likely going to see? We're most likely going to see a 2 hour kind of pull back. And we might even see that on the 30-minute scale, right? If it's pretty quick, we could see the 30-minute curl down and then curl back up into positive territory. Oops, I just messed this up on my screen, so I'm going to fix that and then get back to it. All right, all fixed. So at this point, you want to be paying attention to those pullbacks. And if you're not in something like GME right now, that's perfectly fine. But at the same time, you want to say this is a daily cross up of the MACD. And a lot of the time, what happens with GameStop when it does get a daily crossing of that MACD? Well, when it crosses on the MACD here, what happened? Big move. When it crossed on the MACD, what happened here the next day? Big move the next day. When it crossed up on the MACD, even right here, well, this was one of the times where it kind of fizzled out, but now you're crossing up again. So you have about 1, 2, 3, and I would say 4, 5. 80% of the time, it has led to a big move the next time, right? We see this daily right here, crosses up, positivity the next day. So 80% of the time, when we do get that daily to cross up, you see a big move the next day. And this is leading into a Monday. Most of the time, when you're going to see something crazy, what do the market makers allow it to happen on a Monday or Tuesday, and then they clamp down on it by Friday for those closing or those expiring options. So pay attention to GME because something massive actually could be happening. If I was someone who was like, hey, GME is going to see a big move at this moment, this is the signals that I would see. These are the signals that I would see. And I want to be very clear with that. Everything here is very freaking bullish. Everything about this is very bullish, and I want you to know about that at this moment. Now, volatility, if we're going to see that come back in with some reversal signals from the SPY and the Qs, I still think this does have the opportunity to leak down for a few days, and then we'll see what happens. But for the most part, it's just when that daily crosses up, when you get that daily momentum behind volatility, that could mean you're seeing downward momentum for the SPY. If you see both of those at the same time, that's a recipe for disaster. And the key thing here is you had a crash signal that actually already happened, which is the 50 crossing the 200, and it is remaining up there. Notice we are not breaking down to lower levels as we're going to an all-time high, right? We're still holding actually a little bit higher than what we did previously, right? So what we're paying attention to here is we said, hey, if this crosses over more squeezing, we're probably going to see a reaction from the 200. Okay, we got the reaction from the 200. What do we want to pay attention to here? If we close below the 200, that could mean we could squeeze for just a little bit longer. So I'd be paying attention to that. But if volatility just crosses up on this MACD at any time, I would be paying very close attention. As we go into the shorter time frames, looking at a 2-hour chart here, I just wanted to show how that 2 hours is still within range of doing something like turning back up. So I'd be paying attention to it. So the key thing with volatility though is you want to make sure to be paying attention to signals from the SPY at the same time. You want to see a reversal signal from the SPY and the opposite reversal signal from the VIX at the same time. And that is something that is very, very helpful going forward. So pay attention to volatility. We do have a crash signal still confirmed. We have not confirmed more upside yet according to volatility. And that's why it's like, you know, I wanted to put that small piece in the beginning saying we could downturn at any time with this. We really could. But because of the PCC, it's leading me to believe there could be an all-time high trap, and I think you need to pay attention to it. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. The main takeaway for today is just going to be, hey, we could see something bad at any time. I would be paying attention to September 6th, but we're always going to trade the signals. If this is going to leak into, hey, we're going to uninvert those yields and then we're going to crash right away, okay, we'll know how to react because we're going to see it in the signals. If it's going to leak into some upside for 6 to 18 months, which does happen sometimes, you can see upside for 6 to 18 months after an uninversion of those yields. That could lead us to believe what? Hey, we still might be getting a downturn. We just need to play those signals to the upside for 6 to 18 months and then see if we have any reversal signals later on. So we'll pay attention to those things for you. Make sure to tune in every night as we are putting out a YouTube video every night this week, and make sure to join us for the live video if you have any questions related to the course or just want me to look at a stock for you. I'm more than happy to do that for you. I think it's a great learning experience, and I think people really learn from seeing how I break things down in real time, and I do it pretty quickly, I know. So if you want to slow things down and understand the things I'm saying a little bit better in those live videos, you can take those courses down in the description, still 90% off. Thank you guys so much for watching this weekend. I really do appreciate it. A lot of people liking the last video, some people jumping in on the course. I respect you for taking some of your personal time to learn a little bit over the weekend, but I hope you're able to spend time with family. If you're seeing this video and you didn't do anything fun all weekend, I'm telling you right now, go get yourself some food that you like. Get anything that you like, anything that you want, even if it's not healthy. I want you to go do something for yourself. Go grab a burger and some fries and a nice pop, play a little video games or something like that tonight, and then wake up in the morning ready to go. I think that this is going to be a very important week. Even though the volume might suck, by the end of the week, we still have to make sure not to let that maybe deadness or volume problems or anything like that. We need to make sure to be on our toes for Friday, and I'm just being genuine about that. That is what I am doing, and I encourage you to do the same. Thank you guys so much for watching. Blessings to you and all your family and friends out there. I hope you all are safe and doing well. Thank you for watching the video, and I hope you have a fantastic night. Peace.